Yeah, hi folks. Now, in a recent Australian census, 20% of young people self-reported themselves as having some degree of mental illness, psychological distress, for example. Now, I can't quite put my finger on it, but I would say some of this is due to the present-day victim culture. But I would say it's largely due to COVID lockdowns and the constant, never-ending climate alarmism that's going on these days. The world is going to end in 10 years, for example, and vulgar propaganda like this from a few years back. Now, this actress is reporting from the future.
What do you want me to say? Or, more importantly, how do you want me to say it?
I could stand here and narrate my world to you like it's the opening credits of a disaster movie. This is the setup. 2050. Far enough in the future for all this to seem plausible. Climate catastrophe reported as normality, the daily index of maximum time allowed outside in Doha or Austin or Manchester. In all these places, it is over 50 degrees centigrade. If you go outside for more than your allotted hour, then you will die. Some specific new tragedy. Targeted bioweapon takes out Cape Town as the statelets of a collapsed South Africa fight for water. First use of live ammunition to keep the hordes out on the Italian-Swiss border. I could be a newsreader, if we still have those. A citizen journalist screaming into a phone against the backdrop of burning old-growth forest. Ported into your optic nerve through a neural network, a studio improvised in a spare bedroom to 500 million subscribers, but not anything we'd recognise as TV news. Or newspapers, obviously. Whatever a newspaper looks like then. We're probably imagining it wrong. Whatever happens, whatever lies look like, and whatever truth becomes, it probably won't look like this. This isn't really the future. This is an idea of the future that, by the time you're watching it, is in the past anyway. This is what the future looked like in our heads in 2019. I'm just here saying, how do you want me to talk to us? Should we talk about dystopia? Maybe? But dystopia is weird, isn't it? It feels now like we might have made a mistake about it. Depending on which version of this future world I'm in right now, of course. I mean, maybe we scared ourselves a bit too much. All that footage of rising oceans and rioting in the cities and the streets of London underwater, and one filthy polar bear that was all ribs and hunger and sad.
Ah, the polar bear.
This gut-wrenching video of an emaciated polar bear struggling to drag himself across a snowless Canadian landscape broke the hearts of billions of people. That was its intent. The video was filmed in August of 2017 by biologist Paul Nicklin, a co-founder of the Canadian non-profit organization Sea Legacy. Nicklin published the video on an Instagram post in early December 2017, in which he discussed the urgency of climate change. 2 days later, Sea Legacy's media and communications partner, National Geographic, published the video with subtitles stating, "This is what climate change looks like." The Sea Legacy webpage also published the video, claiming, "This is the face of climate change."
Scientists have been warning us about climate change for years. And the world certainly took notice a couple of weeks ago when a video of a starving, disoriented polar bear made its way around the planet on social media.
The National Geographic video went viral, attracting 2.5 billion views. The story was picked up by news media all over the world, most of which blamed climate change for the bear's pitiful condition. Many viewers were furious that an obviously sick animal had been used to advance a political agenda. Climate change was not the cause of this bear's poor condition. Local sea ice had not retreated exceptionally early that year, and no other starving bears were seen. and it is not unusual for polar bears in the region to come ashore at that time of year.
And she goes on to say that National Geographic finally apologised for the fakeness of this story.
All those water wars, desiccated dead piled in the uninhabitable streets, and the rise of idiots feeding on fear with simplistic solutions. Don't get me wrong. A lot of that happened. Or from where you're watching this, a lot of that is going to happen. The processes are in motion. Dengue fevers gearing up for a world tour. Extreme heats eyeing up more people than just the old or young or sick. People are dying of this stuff right now. But if that's what we tell ourselves, we internalise the end, the idea of it. We lie down in the face of it because it's just too big, and then that is the end. Because we'll put our trust, our need to be saved from all that, in things we can't see yet. We'll take the chance of an off moment of inspiration over the provable reality. It's just the way we're built. The big discoveries are self-regenerating bodies and fusion power and everything quiet and humming and electric. Bringing the global temperature down with sulfates or electric cars or some method of clean energy we haven't even thought of yet. Our ability to pull salvation out of the apocalypse hat at the last minute, to carbon capture our way out of this. The idea there's a sole solution that'll save us through the power of Eureka is seductive. And we're trying all these things. We are. But whatever arrives, if it does, it can't reach back through time to now. We never really worked out how to talk about this. We probably should have. I mean, it's not as if we didn't know. Even if some of us took comfort in the voices that only told us what we wanted to hear. And then we spent a long time trying to blind ourselves with science. And we're sorry. That didn't necessarily work. Graphs, red lines, colours and concentrations, parts per million, and rises of degrees and millimetres, and we look around ourselves and think, don't we, these numbers are too small, or too large, or meaningless. What does 2 degrees mean on a cold day? And what does it mean decades from now? Which of them is easier to feel in our bones and then get on with our lives? If we could have sung scientific facts like pop songs, we'd have got to the chorus sooner, but we didn't. It's not that we could have stopped these things from happening, but we'd have been better prepared to face them in a way that didn't kill so many of us. Maybe we screwed ourselves up with too much speculative fiction. I could be standing at the edge of the sea telling you the future looks like this, that most of the streets you grew up in are behind me in the waves, list the countries that are gone, and the parts of countries because they're underwater or you just can't go outside in them, where the local biospheres collapsed. Show you the normal life that plays out against that backdrop, kind of warmer, more beige version of now with potholes and soldiers on the streets everywhere rather than just the poor places.
But surely you had good university lecturers back then, didn't you? Now, this is Dr. Richard Milne, and he gave this lecture at Edinburgh University back in 2011.
And at the end of the lecture, someone in the audience asked a very pertinent question. It exists, so why aren't we doing it? Professor Hazeldine gave a very good answer, talking about funding and the tightness of governments, so on and so forth. But actually, he gave a far more succinct answer with a throwaway comment halfway through his lecture. And that comment was this: at the moment, it is socially acceptable to put all that carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And as long as this remains the case, there will never be the political will to spend the money that is needed to develop things like carbon capture and storage to the level that will actually make a substantial impact on climate change. Why is it socially acceptable, given the damage that scientists all say that this carbon dioxide is doing? Well, the reason is headlines like this, things like this circulating on the web, disinformation. 100 reasons why global warming is natural. Comments like that appear in the right-wing media all the time.
Disinformation caused by the right-wing media.
And to give you an impression of the effect these have, I'll show you an opinion poll that was taken about 2 years ago. Do you think climate change is man-made? 41% of the public said yes, 32% said that it is not proven, 8% said it's not man-made, 15% refused to even accept that it was happening. Now, this sounds bad enough for scientists, but there's 2 points I want to make here. First, have a look at the date, November 2009. This was before ClimateGate. This was before Glaciergate. 2 events that have eroded public confidence in climate change further. So these camps are likely to have expanded, and in particular, this one. The second point is this was the UK. Now, we in the UK have an impartial broadcaster called the BBC.
Impartial broadcaster called the BBC.
Other countries are not so lucky. Other countries have media that is dominated by right-wing viewpoints.
The guy's a real cartoon. He tries to advance his science by blaming the right-wing media. Now, folks, this is climate alarmist child abuse. This 6-year-old kid has just watched an environmental documentary at his school, where you can be assured he was filled up with all sorts of propaganda, and his mother made it worse.
Our planet is going to be wrecked. People are just being rude to it. They throw trash on the ground. They cut down trees. They make forests into places, into roads. They need to think about what they are doing, and what they are doing to the planet, what they are doing to animals. They are being so bad. I could just call them dumb people. Or maybe even a bad word, the S word. I'm gonna try to fight them off when I'm a grown up. I hate them.
Well, maybe you could make posters. Would that be a good idea? And then you wouldn't have to fight anybody? Yeah.
We'll do that and fight. I'm just gonna yell at them. Actually, no, I'm not gonna yell at them. I have a better idea. Yell in their ear. I hate them. And I just don't want animals to die. I wish I was an adult right now.
Why do you wish you were an adult, honey?
I just want to do my job right now.
You don't have to be an adult. What can you do as a kid to help them?
You go with me, and we go to a little mountain, and we try to stop people. And I can ring my whistle. Oh my gosh. Baby animals. Oh my gosh. They eat the garbage, and I hate those people who make them do that.
Now, Jordan Peterson gets it.
I saw a professor at an event something like this. He came out and trumpeted this bloody environmentally friendly house he built, and fair enough, man. It was a pretty interesting house, but not everybody had the $4 million that it took him to build it. And I'm not criticizing his money even. It's like, he's had some money, good for him. He built a house, okay. But then to trumpet that as a moral virtue, well, you're pushing it there. And then he came out to all the kids and he said, you know, my wife and I decided that we were only going to have one child. And I think that's one of the most ethical things we could have possibly done. And I would strongly encourage you to do the same. I thought, you son of a bitch. You get up in front of these young people. A lot of these kids were children of first-generation immigrants from China. And he showed all these images, you know, of these terrible factories in China, these endless rows of sterile mechanism that were subordinating all the Chinese people to this terrible, you know, capitalist machine. And I thought, you don't understand. Half the audience is looking at those factories and thinking, that's a hell of a lot better than struggling through the mud under Mao, buddy. And so I don't know where he thought he was, but to come out in front of all those kids and basically tell them that the whole human enterprise is so goddamn corrupt that the best thing they could possibly do is limit their multiplication, and to think of himself as a scholar and an educator, it was just, I did say something, by the way. It was rather uncomfortable, and he stomped off the stage. But that's no message for young people. There's no excuse for that. And you think, well, you know, we're going to destroy the planet. We have to do this. We have to demoralize the youth to be ethical. It's like, yeah, really, that's your theory? You're going to demoralize young people to be ethical? That's your theory? It's like, you should go home and think about that for like a year. And I'm passionate about this, you know, because you have no idea how many people that's killing. You have no idea. I see people everywhere, all over the world. They're so demoralized.
And he's not the only one that gets it.
I mean, I sincerely believe in this old world that everything is beautiful. I mean, if I wake up in the morning and see these plants out here and all those flowers that are in there and the green grass on the ground, that's beautiful. And people don't realize what they have. They bitch about it. They do. And then nowadays, I am so upset that the things we did and the things we fought for and the boys that died for it, it's all gone down the drain. Our country's gone to hell in a handbasket. We haven't got the country we had when I was raised. Not at all. Nobody will have the fun I had.
Nobody will have the fun I had. Now that is so true. We had real freedom when I was young.
Nobody will have the opportunity I had. It's just not the same. That's not what I want. That's not what they died for. It's just not it. No, I'm so sorry. I'll be all right. Just takes me time to get over it. Because why me sitting here like this? See all this going on. Listen, it's just, Emily, it's just not. It's just not the same. That isn't what we fought for. Oh, well, I should be worried about it, I guess. I'm 100 years old, they say.
Now, folks, I can't be exactly sure what he was talking about, but I can understand his sentiment perfectly. Our soldiers didn't die for this global communist mess we're in today. Now, folks, I've posted all the links below.